All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Flex Zone. We are in week 3. We are heading into week 3. We are doing our waiver episode, top waivers of the week, joined by your host, as always, Sohan Ahmad. I'm a little down in the dumps right now.
You're not the only one.
But I did manage to get one win at least. Joined by our co-host Rehan Ahmad, who's kind of, I think better shape than me overall, but it doesn't look like we're
in some ways, yes, but in other ways, no. I think both of us got destroyed by Joe Burrow, and we'll get into it a little bit later on the ramifications of the Joe Burrow injury. But yes, one league I'm dominating, the other league I'm barely hanging on by a thread. So
yeah, so it's listen. I mean, like I always say, don't lose hope. It's an early season.
Yes,
I think I started off pretty low last season too, and ended up, in second and third place. So it's not the end of the world. It's just, keep your eyes forward and make the adjustments that you need to make. So let's get started. This is our top waiver pick episode of the week. So we're going to go over the waivers that we suggested last week, which one of those waivers flexed, which one of those waivers unfortunately hexed. And then go through our QBs, wide receivers, running backs, our skill positions. As always, we're going to talk about kickers. We're going to talk about defenses, although I'm kind of like having a little, doubt with my conscience about kickers, because some of these kickers is the reason why
the first 2 weeks I've seen kickers do 50-yarders like it's nothing now. So
dude, we had 2 kickers kick 5 field goals in a game. I've never seen that in 1 week. And then not just them, there's other kickers who had 4 field goals in a game. And of course, Brandon Aubrey, Mr. 60-yarder is nothing for him. I think he hit 3 60-yarders against me.
I mean, he's on a different level, man.
Yeah.
And he does it effortlessly. There's he barely struggles to hit 55. It's like what he hit a 64-yarder last to win the game, I guess.
64 to tie the game. 64 to tie the game.
Sorry. Yeah. So listen, if you have Brandon Aubrey, good luck. Hopefully he continues that all season.
I hate your guts.
But yeah, let's dive in. Let's
Yeah, we have some bad news, some very bad news last week.
Yes.
Mostly quarterback driven, honestly. For those of you who didn't pay attention, beginning of the week, Brock Purdy got hurt prior to the start of the games. But the real news comes in with, I'll start with the quote unquote good news. Justin Fields, he had a concussion. We don't know if he's going to play this week or not. It's looking a little gray, but he's still available for season. But the real bad news is Joe Burrow. Mighty Joe Burrow, Joe Cool, is essentially he's done for the season. I already dropped him.
Well, the funny thing is, so yes, on paper, if you read the news and notes, he just had surgery. He's so just for people who don't know,
at least 3 months.
He has turf toe and torn ligaments in one of his toes. So right now they're projecting 3 months out because he is set to have surgery. But the funny thing is, if you read the news and notes, they are not willing to say he's done for the season, or I think he's gonna be an IR. I mean, so at least the 4 weeks IR. Yes, probably he's gonna be out probably till the latter half of the season. Now it remains to be seen if he's done for the full fantasy season or if he's gonna come at the end. I, as a Joe Burrow owner right now, if you have an IR slot, I'm just dumping and stashing in there because they have not come out and ruled him out for the season yet. But yes, that's the most terrible news you could have.
I'll give you the kind of the opposite lens of that. So I also have Joe Burrow in my other league. I actually dropped him because they're saying minimum 3 months, which means he's not coming back until mid-December, which means if he comes back at all, it will be during the second round of the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah.
At which point we don't know where the Bengals are going to be. Are the Bengals going to be willing to throw him in for 2 weeks to just risk him getting hurt again? I don't know that makes sense. And realistically, I don't think the Bengals are going to... We had this saga before 2 years ago when I drafted Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow got hurt. And that Bengals team was not the same. So, I dropped him also because I needed my IR spot for some RB depth, which I'm lacking right now. So you kind of have to look at your situation. If you don't have any other kind of injury concerns of any kind and you're not worried about that, then keep him in your IR spot. And if you need to dump him later if something else, more favorable presents itself. But that was a big one. Then I obviously...
But just to add to that, I think you kind of jumped the gun. Now you're probably 99% right that he's droppable. But to me, I think it's too much of a gut reaction. People have played with turf toe. It just depends on the severity of the injury. He's going to see
but
like
it's
a
surgery.
specialist.
It's a surgery piece
Yeah.
that's really the concern for me. And
Yeah, but
did
the
I jump the
surgery.
gun a little bit? I probably did jump the gun a little bit, in all
Yeah.
fairness.
But no, you're probably right. He's probably done for the season. But to me,
Yeah.
I don't know enough yet. I'd rather wait because people have played with turf toe before.
Yeah.
It just depends on how terrible
People
the
playing
injury
with
is.
Philip Rivers used to play with torn ACLs on the regular.
Yeah.
But, they don't make them like they do.
And listen,
don't
he's
make
not
him
a
like
running back.
old
To me, a running back with the severity of turf toe injury is a lot worse. And with a quarterback with this type of injury, they can't drive into their throws.
that's the big thing.
So he can
Possible.
throw deep shots. But it just depends. Like to me, I read, and we'll go into the kind of replacements in this waiver wire edition of who to pick up in his place. But if he is back near the latter half of the season, and if you had the luxury of having an IR spot, I would just wait and see. And if, by the end of this week, they just said, you know what, we don't want to risk it. He's done. I think this leads to a bigger question. And, we'll go into the other injuries right after this.
Yeah.
I've read, in the news a lot about the correlation between him and Andrew Luck. Joe Burrow does not have an offensive line. He has not had an offensive line for the last couple of seasons. And it's not just because they don't draft it. They've had injuries. They've drafted poor offensive line, kind of players. But he gets destroyed every single season. And they had a stat where Andrew Luck took less hits than Joe Burrow. And Andrew Luck decided to hang it up because he was concerned of his health. Joe Burrow, for the talented person he is, I just don't think they're doing enough to keep him in place. They get these superstar players in all these other spots, but at a certain point, Joe Burrow should think about leaving this team. If this is the type of damage hits he's going to take, he's had surgeries every other year. He's had a severe injury, right? He has not had a consistent couple of seasons where he's played quarterback. Something has always happened to him.
Yeah.
So,
and it's I also think honestly, I think he holds the ball a little bit, at times.
Of course.
Because of who he's got.
Because his defense stinks. He's got to score every single time.
But we saw a lot of that heroics work out for him last year. And it's just that's the gamble with him. And, I don't think anyone was wrong to draft him, right? Like you weren't wrong to draft him.
It's a freak injury, just like everything else.
Injury, nothing you can do about it. So what does it have downstream impact? Obviously, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, tight ends to a lesser degree. Right. They all are going to suffer to some degree. I mean, we had this again, literally 2 years ago, right? Chase killed it this week, but last year when Jake Browning played, or 2 years ago, sorry, when Jake Browning played in his place, I had Jamar Chase and he had a noticeable decline. The targets are still there. The volume was still there, but just the quality of production was not there. T. Higgins actually benefited the most, believe it or not, from the Joe Burrow injury 2 years ago. Are we going to see that same thing? I don't know. That was back when Joe Mixon was there. Joe Mixon had a great year that year. Is Chase Brown not going to kind of uptake a little bit?
So I actually want to talk about. So I have Chase Brown. I don't think it's going to impact Chase Brown as much as it's going to impact Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Just because Chase Brown catches the ball a lot out of the backfield, I do think they're going to shorten the field a little bit more on their throws. Yeah. He's not going to just throw deep shots all the time. Chase Brown, where it's going to impact him, he's already had a poor yards per carry average for the season. Yeah. He's averaging horrible numbers. I don't think it's going to get better. I actually think as a Chase Brown owner, you're going to have to lean on his volume and hope he catches the ball more. This impacts him in other areas. He's not going to get those breakaway touchdowns. This is why you leaned on Chase Brown and Jamar Chase, because you thought Burrow was going to be there to just kind of keep the volume going. So now it's going to have to take a step back. So is Chase Brown an RB1? I don't think so. I think he's going to go back now down to RB2, which stinks if you've drafted him early like I did. He was my first pick in my second round. So now the other players before him, you're thanking your stars who had some of these other guys, and now he takes a hit.
These first 2 weeks, I'm constantly going back to the draft. I'm like, what if I just didn't pick this guy? What if I didn't take Drake London with my second pick? What if I didn't take certain guys when I could have taken others? But other injury news, which it's not yet a scare, but Jaden Daniels does have a sprained knee, it sounds like. To what degree, they haven't confirmed him to be out or doubtful or anything like that, or he's questionable right now. As a Jaden Daniels owner, I literally both my quarterbacks got hurt in 1 week. I don't know if it's early enough, again, depending on how many bench spots you have and what other kind of areas of weakness you have, if you need to pick a guy up for waiver yet. But I don't have that luxury right now. So I kind of have to wait and see with Jaden and then kind
I
of,
think Marcus Mariota is his backup.
yeah, I'll have to pick a guy up,
Yeah.
if worst case scenario, if they say that he's out, I have to pick a guy up. But he has an earlier game. So it's not as much of a big deal as like, some of these guys that have like Brock Bowers having a Monday night game and trying to like figure out if he is going to be playing or not. So
yeah, I mean,
that's injury updates.
Well, so there's a couple more that just happened, and I'll go through them quickly. Aaron Jones got a hamstring injury.
Oh, yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy, thank God. I mean, okay, I don't wish injury.
Yeah, I don't even consider JJ McCarthy.
But JJ McCarthy's no, but this has other ramifications.
Yeah.
He's been so terrible. He's had one good quarter of football. He's been lost. Again, it's not all his fault. This offensive line has looked horrible, but this is good news in other respects. Again, I don't wish injury on anybody. Hopefully he turns around. He showed promises, but Carson Wentz is a backup. He's a journeyman backup. He's had some good years. Do we see the Sam Darnold effect? Do we see the Sam Darnold effect? Look, he's got the talent.
So I hesitate because to me, Wentz is actually more like JJ McCarthy than he is like Sam Darnold. Kevin O'Connell has done wonders with pocket passers, right? You look at Kirk Cousins, you look at even Josh Dobbs, from when that little stint he played with them, and Sam Darnold. They're not really heavy runners, right? Whereas Wentz and JJ McCarthy are athletes and they want to move and run. So
but I don't think but I think that's better for him because the O-line has been so bad.
Well, you would think. So you would think. But that didn't help JJ McCarthy. And Kevin McConnell, I don't know if it's Kevin McConnell's just kind of, maybe he's playing too tight with him. Maybe he's a little more loose with Carson because he is a vet. But I got to wait and see with Carson because
there's only one way to go, and that's up. This offense has been horrible.
That's true.
And now Jordan Mason.
I have
Jordan Mason. He takes over for Andrew James. He gets the full workload. And now I also have last year at TMC. I had Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, who's been horrible. TJ Hawkinson. Yeah. I think Carson Wentz loves tight ends.
TJ Hawkinson at this point. Honestly,
no, I wouldn't drop him. Are you crazy? Carson Wentz throws to tight ends. I actually think now. Listen, I as a person who's I've been bad on like TJ Hawkinson. I was scared. I've drafted him pretty high, not too high, but mid-roundish. Now I at least have some optimism with him. I want to see at least this week who they, how they play with Carson Wentz, but at least you have some optimism because it's been horrible if you had any part of this Minnesota offense. So now let's I think that's everybody. There's some other minor injuries, but I don't think they're unless you think of anybody else. But let's dive in.
Nobody of note. Yeah.
So let's dive into the waiver flexes for the week.
So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just, we got to start off the season with some flexes and hexes. So we were kind of about even. We did a little bit better with our flexes. Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, as they call him now.
Yeah.
He did it against the, top defensive team pick, right, against Denver. And it looked easy, honestly. Like, I think they, we're not talking about kickers, but their kicker had 5 field goals as well, right? So, which means that they were not punting. They were just continuously on the move.
Well, I think they're one of the only teams that has not kicked yet, or they're the fewest in the league. They score pretty much on every drive. I mean, listen, Jonathan Taylor has been just exploding. That's also helped Daniel Jones.
Raiders, Cardinals. I'm not scared of any of these guys. The Chargers are a little bit tough, but Chargers really haven't played. I mean, Patty still had a solid game against the Chargers. Geno Smith, I don't consider him to be an NFL quarterback. I don't know why he continues to get starting jobs. I think he's as average as they get. And then Tennessee again. And Pittsburgh, we've seen, is not really that scary of a defense right now in Atlanta. Yeah. So he's got a nice little schedule coming up.
But listen, as a person who's been a Giants fan and seen the other Daniel Jones, right? I'm still waiting for the shooter drop, right? Like,
I know. I mean, I was watching the game very closely because I had Denver defenses getting shellacked by them. And there were some things I was seeing from him that just looked a lot steadier. It didn't look as chaotic, as hectic. Like on the Giants, you could see when he's making a play, like he didn't know what he wanted to do. And he just was like running for his life at a lot of the times.
I mean, listen, a lot of that was also the coaching was bad. I feel like the coaching, they played their strengths more on Indianapolis. Like he didn't have to look behind him.
And Indy's O-line. Indy's O-line is legit. Indy's O-line has been legit for years. So
and the crazy thing is, he's 12.4% rostered. So we are going to talk about him. in the waiver pickup section again. And he is right now second amongst quarterbacks in the league. He is only behind Lamar Jackson in half PPR, which is insane. He's sandwiched between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Now, I know it's only week 2.
I mean, listen, he is white Lamar. I've been saying that for years, right? He is white Lamar. So he is exactly where he belongs.
I don't think I would put him in Lamar Jackson's category yet. But listen, I mean, his game is speaking for itself. So I can't hate on him.
A couple other, guys to note. Trey Benson, had a solid game. Nothing crazy, but just, calling his flexes. He's continuing to see good volume and good production. Quentin Johnson, thankfully I picked him up. He had another nice solid game, and it's more than just the long touchdown that he had yesterday.
I actually want to talk about him because I actually think we always write him off every season. And we've been writing him up because I seen him. Look, I was high on him his rookie year. He burned me so many times. And then last season, he had some flash games where you're like, oh, now I got to pick him up. But one thing I don't like about Quentin Johnson, maybe it's changed this year. It's like before he didn't get the targets, he would just get some home run balls and get you some touchdowns. And then it's like boom or bust every week. Yeah. But now, the first 2 weeks of the season, as you see, he's got 7 targets on average. So
and he's
maturing.
He's listed as a starting receiver. He's listed as the wide receiver 2, actually, ahead of Keenan Allen, which I was a little surprised to see, honestly, but it makes sense. And what do we see historically, right? We've been kind of getting, I think, spoiled a little bit in recent years with young receivers coming out and killing it. But typically with receivers, it's year 2 where you start to see guys take shape. And this is year 2 for him. And they're throwing it way more than I expected at the beginning of the season. With
is it year 2 or year 3 for him? I don't remember.
It's year 2 for Quentin. He was a rookie last year. So this is a right time to see his growth. And quite honestly, the 7 targets, and I was skeptical of Ladd coming into the season as such a high draft pick.
I know. Now I feel bad. If you're using Ladd, I actually feel bad because they thought he'd be a volume hog, but now with Keenan and Quentin,
he's not. Yeah. Because Justin Herbert he's a smart quarterback. He spreads it out. He
spreads the ball. Yeah.
So this is a guy I think is going to continue to see. Is he going to get 2 touchdowns every week? Is he going to get a long touchdown every week? Maybe not. But that's what they're looking at. And if you look at the way their team is built, they have enough stability and balance to continue to play with that style.
Hey, right? You know what's funny? This year, I was actually thinking Herbert as a late round pick over Burrow. And I wish I listened to myself because
Matt.
I've always been
I thought they were going to go so run heavy. I thought they were going to go super run heavy again, like they did last year. Yeah. And I got burned the same way as you. So in both leagues, but we'll talk about him again later. But Charles Tillman,
Cedric Tillman.
I'm sorry, not Charles. The wrong Tillman from back in the day. Yeah. Cedric Tillman had a touchdown again, so a solid game.
Yeah, again, the targets is what we're looking at. Similar to Quentin Johnson. Just he's getting peppered with a lot of targets, and he caught 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games. Again, they have the same kind of team where there's a lot of options for Flacco. Surprisingly, Njoku is not dominating like we thought he would. It's being spread around.
The last 2 flexes are a couple of tight ends.
Yes.
Harold Fannin Jr., who didn't have as good a game as he did the first week, but still showing consistent volume, even with Njoku there. Good for a tight end. 5 for 48 is a very solid game, right? Yeah. And then the number 1 flex for me is Juwan Johnson, baby. I picked him up in every league I could, and he showed out against a good tight end defense, and he's got a nice schedule coming up too. Again, Seattle is the worst defense against tight ends right now, but it's a targets for me. Like I've always been high on Juwan Johnson, but he just never got a lot of looks. But 11 targets, 9 targets, 2 weeks in a row. This is a thing now, and I don't see this getting any worse. He's only going to get better with more targets because that's his problem. He's super athletic, but he wasn't getting the targets. He wasn't getting the experience.
Well, also, but another reason why he wasn't getting the targets because he's a receiving tight end. He doesn't block. So now I think they need him more than ever because Olave is playing hurt. Rashid Shaheed, he's like a deep threat. So it's basically Juwan Johnson is kind of their intermediate.
He's getting a lot of the targets that you would expect to go to Kamara, but it's kind of like funneling toward Juwan Johnson, which I think is just great. And there's actually been a pretty healthy amount of good tight ends so far this year, which hopefully that stays, knock on wood, on course. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So now we go to the dark side of the coin, to the hexes. Or quarterbacks, we didn't, fare too well outside of Indiana Jones. We got, Rodgers had a very pedestrian game. Michael Penix also had a very pedestrian game, which helped me win, thankfully. But, I think both of those guys will bounce back, obviously. But sorry.
Yeah, that Vikings Atlanta game was an anomaly. I just felt like, Penix could have scored a lot more. I mean, I didn't know Minnesota defense was that good. I don't think they are, but Penix, I just felt like just took what the defense gave. I mean, Bijan had a nasty game. He had over 130 yards rushing.
Yes. Unfortunately, he did.
Yeah. So basically, I think they just decided, you know what, we're going to lead on the run game. And the Penix didn't even complete that many passes. So I think this is an outlier. I think as Penix gets more comfortable, I don't think Penix is like this, quarterback that's going to get you 30 points a game.
No, he's a plug and play.
He's like a game manager type. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, which I could appreciate. But maybe he's a weak plug and play, like you said.
And our last hex, we'll call it, is Hollywood Brown, who I know a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And we had one guy spent like $27 on FAAB on him, and I was a little, I made a comment about it after he did it. I just didn't see it, and I know, he was obviously a high waiver pick last week for obvious reasons, but Xavier Worthy is not as injured as I think we were initially led to believe. But for me, it was the 10 of 16 week one scared me a little bit, and then. Obviously, we're playing Eagles, a much better defense in week 2.
Yeah, I think that also has something to do with it. I think against the Giants, we'll see. Yeah, because the thing is, the targets just aren't there. Like, they don't have any good wide receivers till Worthy comes back. Right? Juju Smith-Schuster, he's not great. So I do think there's a bounce back game against the Giants. Now it depends on, is it going to be another defensive game? Pacheco's not been playing well too. So I do think if it's just kind of, Brown is the only person they can lean on. I think
this is the get right for game for Kansas City. The Giants just give up like 45 points. So, if you're not going to get right against anybody, it's the Giants.
Exactly. All right. So now let's start getting into the top waiver wire picks of the week. I think, now that this week has ended, we kind of get, some semblance of some strategy, some consistency. We could kind of tell which players are going to stick.
Yeah.
Who's your first player?
Yeah, so we'll start with our quarterbacks. We already talked about Indiana Jones. Crazy thing that he's still, under 12% rostered. Obviously, because of quarterbacks being as deep as they are, that's not insane. But I think if you're gonna get him this week, especially with the quarterback injuries that we mentioned earlier, I think you're gonna have to pay up for him this week.
I think you'll remember this roster percentage is as of Tuesday today. Usually tomorrow is when all the numbers hit. This number's going to skyrocket. It's going to be in like the 50s or 60s.
I'm spending at least 5% on Daniel Jones, especially if you're like us and you have Burrow as your starting quarterback. I probably spend a little bit more. I think 5% is a safe number, but depending on who got hurt and what your league is and what type of guys you got in your, who you play with, you might have to go higher. You might have to go as high as 10%, just to secure. Because honestly, looking across there, and there are a lot of other options, solid and safe options, but I think from a stability and potential standpoint, he gives you the highest floor because he's also a running quarterback, and we haven't really seen him run a ton yet, right? My second guy, I kind of have to go back to some nostalgia here, is my boy Dangerous. He's 7% rostered. Now, obviously, he stunk it up week 1, right? But he killed it against Dallas, and Kansas City has not been exactly, really.
I don't think he's a moonball.
Yeah, he's not gonna be. He's also been playing on the road. He's also
been literally chucking it up. I mean, honestly,
you got Malik Neighbors. It's all you need to do, man. Sometimes it's what you need to do.
I have Malik Neighbors. I'm happy. Keep chucking it. But I don't. Kansas City, their defense is legit. I don't think he's gonna have the same.
Their defense is better, right? But Quentin Johnson had 2 touchdowns against Kansas City week 1, right? Philly, they're just not throwing the ball a lot, but so I don't really look at the Philly KC game as a good kind of
that's fair
evaluation of what to expect. The closest thing we could look at is what San Diego did to them. San Diego threw all over them, right? So I can see Russ completely pulling a last year Russ and just crapping out. but he was pretty solid last year on the Steelers too. So I think this is, now that he's kind of warmed up, I think Russ is a safe bet. If you can't
I'm worried about for spot playing. Yes, I'm just worried about the matchups. Yeah, because if you look at week 5 on, he's going to go through murderers row.
Definitely not recommending him as a season long play. But
and we don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, Jackson Dart, had the Jackson Dart truthers have been staved off for 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, those like few plays he was in, I didn't really like.
I mean, but they didn't have any packages for him. They
Oh, what I do? Sorry.
Oh, you kicked me off.
My bad. I was trying to close the screen and I closed you by mistake. My fault.
Let me share my screen then. Yeah. So I think So with Russ, he's a spot play. He's got a pretty tough schedule coming up, but again, you can do worse. And he's good in the beginning half of the season. So use him in the beginning, because come down the stretch, he's probably
exactly Russ fades late on. And hey, listen, early on, for those of you guys who are being successful, don't get lazy. This is the time to use your advantage and trade. That's what, we can talk about this, a little bit more in depth next episode potentially, but this is the time you're in a power position. It's the time to trade, right? Yeah. Prey on the weak, prey on the guys who are injured, and get what you can get, scavenge, whatever you got to do, man, to make your team as foolproof as possible.
All right. So let me run through the rest of the list. I don't need to show them on screen here, but you talk about Bryce Young, 15% rostered. I still don't think Carolina offense is great. I mean, they had a little bit, they were better than what they were the week before, but again, they did a lot of garbage time stuff. So to me, I just can't trust Carolina. I think when they play good teams, they're going to fold, and it's all garbage time numbers.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because that's really the reason why I have them on the list. Quite frankly, is there are much safer picks out there, like a Stafford and like even Drake May has been playing really well. Like, there's guys you can play that are safe. I'm going with Bryce purely because they're going to get in garbage time situations, and there are garbage time heroes. We have had many garbage time heroes in the past, right? There's no reason why one man's garbage can't be another man's treasure, right? And that's just, again, it all depends on your situation, who you can get. But if you're really desperate at quarterback, you can do worse, because it seems like they're going to be in those kind of continuous bad defense, high offense kind of games.
Yeah. So quickly going through my list, Michael Penix, again, he plays against at Carolina. I think he's due for a bounce back game where they score some touchdowns. He's 34.4% rostered.
Hopefully to Drake London. Hopefully throw some to Drake London.
Listen, I think this is going to be a game where Drake London kind of comes off. I just feel like, there's only one way to go but up. Now, I'm going to recommend Caleb Williams. I know he's already rostered at 71%. Just because
71%.
Yeah, which is crazy. But let me just show you Caleb's schedule. And as a Burrow person, I'm actually putting some FAAB on him, just because if I look at their schedule, they play Dallas next week. Giants just went ballistic on Dallas. Las Vegas, then the bye, then Washington, then New Orleans. Let's see how good their defense is come week 7. Baltimore, their defense is pretty good. Then Cincinnati, the Giants. So there's a
Mac
stretch.
Jones here pulled touchdowns against New Orleans. So
exactly.
It's not a.
So there's a stretch where he could give you some stuff. He runs, and honestly, listen, again, another garbage time hero. I think when they play the set game script, he's terrible. And then when he just does whatever he wants, in garbage time, they give him some touchdowns. So again, I don't think he's like a weekly starter, but now you're just scrambling if you lost Burrow. And finally, we talked about Carson Wentz. I think he's a dark throw. I wouldn't play him. It's more just for, if you need a spot starter, let's see how he plays this week. And if he plays decent enough that you could use him, maybe it's somebody down the line. So again, I wouldn't even put any FAAB on him. It's just more for like a curiosity stake, because he's got weapons, man. When you got Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Addison's going to be coming back week 6 on. Jalen Naylor's pretty good. So he has weapons at his disposal.
Yeah, and that first week tends to be favorable for guys who come in. They kind of got that one game fluke before they come back to reality, if nothing else.
Exactly. So all right. So running backs. Who's your first running back? to pick up.
So for me, Tyler Algier, we saw the volume he's still getting with Bijan. And if they do, for some reason, turn back into a run heavy team, or Lord forbid anything happens to Bijan, right? And just look at his schedule. He's got a very favorable schedule too, even going into the playoffs. And we've seen Tyler Algier be an RB1 in the past. So of all the guys that are available, and I was surprised to see that he's still less than 40% owned. He's a guy. Now, more likely people who are actually on the list who are available. Tajay Spears should be coming off of IR in a couple of weeks, and Tony Pollard hasn't looked good. He's a guy that I have in all of my IR spots were available. Just again, it's based on talent. It's based on upside.
I mean, Pollard has been okay. He hasn't been great, but you know what? I don't actually attribute that to Pollard. Their offense is just terrible. And I'm watching 2 of these games, even with Cam Ward. Their offense still does not post a lot of points. Hopefully, Tajay coming back helps both the running backs out. So really spread the ball.
And my last guy, so I had Kyle Monange. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The Chicago Bears backup running back. Mainly because Swift didn't look good. He had a fumble in the game. I thought I was going to see more from Kyle, but his volume still is not quite where I would like it to be.
It's kind of like a hold.
He got some garbage time. He's a hold player. I actually am going to swap him, and I'm going to say Miles Sanders. And I'm going to say Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is, I think, like 6% rostered or something like that. Yeah. Because Javonte Williams is, I think, surprised a lot of people in how well he's playing on the Cowboys. But let's not forget, Miles Sanders was an RB1 and like a high draft pick RB1, not that long ago, right? If anything happens to Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders immediately becomes a league winner, in my opinion.
So I don't know about the league winner, but that's putting it boldly. But I do think on a high-powered offensive team with bad defense, he's a good person to kind of have, because that's what you want. You want these like shootout type offenses because they have no defense. And you see how Javonte Williams, he's averaging like 2 touchdowns a game, which is pretty insane. It's because they got to keep scoring.
Is that sustainable with his prior health history and all that stuff? Who knows? This might just be a bounce back year for him and great for him. But if we play the odds and look at the odds, it's not likely, especially if the volume he's getting. And Miles Sanders can do everything. He's he fumbles a lot, but he can run, he can catch as well as anybody else. So to me, he's a guy like I kind of did a last minute replacement on. I think for the value, and you can get him cheap, because I don't think anyone's going to be looking at Miles Sanders. You can get him super cheap. Whereas for Tyler Algier, you're going to have to pay up for.
Yeah, that's true. So I got 2 players. I'll go through them quickly. We already talked about Trey Benson, but let me just go back into him. Like, I do think if you do not get him this week, the usage is going to
his roster percentage. I'm shocked that his roster percentage is as low as it is.
He's still at 54.5, but again, after this week, who knows? Now Connor had a good game, so I think at the best right now it's a split, right? He's being used a lot. He's been catching the ball. Look, 6 targets this game. He had less rushing targets. He had 8 in the first game and 3 this game, so he took a backseat. But it's not just about rushing; it's about snaps and it's about usage, right? So now he's kind of getting more mixed into the passing game. And he looked good. He looked explosive. He was cutting good. Yep. I think they're going to use both these running backs. If Connor, God forbid, goes down with an injury, Trey Benson is like a must start, in my opinion. So I think if you have a shot at him, go for him right now. The other guy I want to talk about, it's my dude. Now he's highly rostered, but again, it's one of those situations where if he's out there, you pick him up.
He's 71% rostered.
71% rostered. Scatterboo. So one thing I noticed last game, he played the 3rd and 4th quarter predominantly. Tyrone Tracy took a back seat. He is a better blocker because he's big.
Yeah.
He runs like Marshawn Lynch. He's good at the goal line. They need a goal line back. And he's a hammer. And one thing I saw, Brian Daboll trusted him. And they didn't draft him in the position they drafted without using him this year. They don't trust Tyrone Tracy. Even though Tracy had a good year last year.
Tracy was on bar. Tyrone Tracy was like, way
always
overplaying.
Yeah.
You're right. He was on borrowed time anyway. So it's like Tyrone Tracy was kind of.
But he's also not a starting running back. He's like a 3rd down back, right? And they were forced to play.
More like a 3rd down back, slot receiver type of guy.
So I think if he's out there, you have to put some FAAB on him, because come the midpoint of the season, he will fully take over this backfield.
Yeah.
Right. So in most leagues he's picked up. I picked him up like last week. I actually had him before that. So I kept just shuffling, dropping him, picking up. But now I kind of have to hold him no matter what, until I see it shake out if the Giants are just, if it's a 1 week wonder or they just stink.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to wide receivers now. Who do you have for wide receivers?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like looking at my list and I'm not as happy with it as after because
let's go through the picks that we know are good.
In complete fairness, I did this before the Monday night games, but I threw up. For me, the number one guy is Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yes,
from a receiver standpoint,
agree,
because he's good. He was good on the Giants. He's been good on the Giants, and when I say good, I mean relatively speaking, he's been good. He gets consistent target volume. But now he's playing with a quarterback who can stretch the field.
Yes.
He still has Malik Neighbors to take away the pressure from him. And he's got 8 targets, 10 targets in back-to-back weeks. And this offense, if we talk about Scatterboo, this offense really should be on a upward trajectory, right? Across the board. Because they have weapons. Wan'Dale has been solid for the last few years. He's a very reliable guy. And now you couple that with Malik being there, a solid running back in Scatterboo, and Russ hopefully playing at least, 70% of what he did last week, then Wan'Dale's kind of outlook is through the roof, right?
Yeah. Agree. I think we're in consensus. I was actually high on Wan'Dale. Do you want to mention anybody else or should I just go into my...
Yeah, and listen, the Giants defense stinks, right? So they're going to be throwing more, right? So that aids to it. Alec Ayamanor on the Titans. It's kind of just one of those things where it's like
I'm off the times, but I know he played well.
He's the only one, and he had a touchdown catch. It was kind of on a broken play. Do I really expect that to continue? Nah, not really. I'm not saying you should go out and get him, but he's a number one. He might be taking over Calvin Ridley's spot sooner than later.
I just don't like the Tennessee Titans because they just don't have a lot of passing.
Believe me. Listen, I didn't like it when I was putting it down on paper. To be
it's
quite
funny.
Honest
It's week 2. What is it? Week 3, and we're already in the dumps. Like looking at like the bargain bin. I actually thought about that. I'm like, man, this is what's out there.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot from a receiver. Now, Quentin Johnson, I didn't put him here initially because I honestly didn't know what his roster percentage was, and I didn't think he would still be out there. If he's still there below 50%, go get Quentin Johnson like we talked about.
Yes.
The other guy that I'm going to take a audible on and replace the guy that I had, who is Keyshawn Butte from the Patriots, is DeAndre Hopkins. I know he's only had 2 targets in each game, but he's getting deep looks from Lamar. Lamar's got a very strong arm. Lamar likes to do what? He likes to break the play, get on the run, and throw it deep. He was doing it in the playoffs last year. Yes, the volume scares me, obviously, but we all remember who DeAndre Hopkins was and where he's played the last couple of years. It kind of makes sense as to where why his numbers were the way they were. But I don't think he's going to be just this 1-2 catch kind of guy and be like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Because Mark Andrews isn't really getting anything, right? You're only really seeing Zay Flowers getting thrown to. And if they have any games like Derrick Henry had last week where he's rushing for like 10 yards or whatever it was, they're going to need more from Hopkins. And he's never played off of athleticism. He was always doing his thing off of his skill set, his route running, and his hands. Those things haven't left him. So you pair that with Lamar Jackson, I think he's a sneaky guy to get in, and you can get him now while he's cheap. And who knows, if his volume starts to creep up, you could see a little sneaky, nice little wide receiver 3 pop out of DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. So we talked about, on my side, we talked about Cedric Tillman already, so I don't want to talk about him. But I do want to talk about Troy Franklin. 4.4% roster. He is.
I left him for you. I
know you did. Because you're a Denver guy. I'm surprised you left him for me. But look at his targets. 9 targets, 8 of 9 for 89 yards and a touchdown. 6 targets before that. I do think Bo Nix is kind of really opening up the offense. I mean, Cortland Sutton, in this team, it was always Cortland Sutton and bust, right? But now I think you're seeing Troy Franklin. They really want to get him involved. And if you look at their schedule, they got the Chargers and Cincinnati next, right? At least with the Chargers, if the Chargers keep playing the way they are, Bo Nix has got to air out the ball, right? Cincinnati, I don't know what this Jake Browning offense is going to look like, but let's just say he keeps it in the 20-25 point range. I know Denver defense is solid. They could shut people down. But
Yeah.
Bo Nix, if he has to throw it, I do think Troy Franklin is going to get
And
some added
Bo
love.
Nix played in college with Troy. They were
Yeah, so
college
there you go.
teammates. Well, I think the trend is, I think Cortland Sutton, I know I was like really mad I didn't take him over George Pickens. I'm kind of like, maybe I was right a little bit now, because Cortland he's a guy, to me, he's always been a wide receiver 2 who's playing in wide receiver 1 position. And Troy has more juice than Cortland is. So we'll see if he takes over.
He was a high draft pick too. Like he
was,
just, yeah. So,
and I think Troy is probably going to be, if it's not Wandell, Troy is probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver target this week.
Yeah.
But, you kind of can go either way because both teams are going to throw, but the Giants are going to throw a little bit more because of their defense is bad, right? Denver's defense tends to
Denver has a great defense.
Hopefully this game against, Indiana Jones is an outlier, but that's why I weight Wandell a little bit ahead of Troy Franklin.
All right, so finally, let's just finish off with tight ends. We already talked about Juwan Johnson, so I don't think we need
we already talked about, he's still only 17, not even 18% rostered, which is, I think that's going to jump up. Harold Finnan was a much higher rostered, 36. I saw a guy spend $10 on him last week, and I was very, shocked to see that. But both of those guys are still very, available. Isaiah Likely is the guy.
I like the Isaiah Likely pick. I actually like that pick a lot.
He's coming, he's ramping up, and he's only like 1% owned, I think. 2% owned, something like that.
He is
20%.
He is a playmaker, man.
And we've seen Mark Andrews has done nothing, right? I don't think that's going to change, if I'm being completely honest. So if Isaiah Likely comes back, maybe it's not this week, maybe it's next week, right? But if you can get him cheap now, before people are going to start scrambling to get him in the next week when he starts coming back, you have just locked yourself into a potential.
He is if you ever watch Isaiah Likely play, he's a monster. But to me, he should be one of the best tight ends in the league. The way he plays, he's catching 40-yard passes over 3 people's heads. Right? Like, to me, like, if you have a chance to get Isaiah Likely, you go and get Isaiah Likely and keep him in your IR spot if it's still there.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I have one guy, and again, a safe floor play because you took Isaiah Likely from me. Yeah. But for me, it's Chiga Okonkwo, Tennessee. Again, nothing sexy. 6 targets, 4 targets, a low power offense, but he's consistent. He's a safe floor guy. They play the Colts next week, so they might need to score a lot more. For a rookie quarterback, usually tight ends become their best friends. I'm looking at all these things. If you have better options, I would go for it, but if you don't, you could do worse than Chiga Okonkwo, right? And I picked him late in the playoffs last year after he had a nice solid game because I do have high hopes for him. I just hate Tennessee. I hate the Tennessee. Other handle things, But the crazy thing to me, and I didn't put him on here because he is higher than 50%, but Zach Ertz is still a lot out That's there. Your boy.
I was shocked to see he's only 50%. He's just barely over 50% rostered. I mean, he's been as solid as they've come. I think, what did he finish number 2 last week? Number 9. He's a TE1 right now, by a good margin. So I was very surprised.
He's TE2 for the season right now.
No, meaning like TE1 and like the TE1 rankings.
Yes.
So I was surprised that he was only, and I don't include anyone who's over 50% on my waiver picks. That's just my personal policy. But he was just barely over 50%, and I was very surprised.
I think he makes a cut.
Yeah. So Zach Ertz, at least until Jaden kind of I think starts to warm back up and gets Debo and Terry kind of fully back in the flow, then I think you're going to start to see him taking a little bit more of a risk than he's been doing lately. But early on, it seems like he's playing safe, and Zach Ertz is going to benefit a lot from that, especially with Eckler out.
Yep. So that's everybody. I think we pretty much covered all the bases. I don't know if you have anybody else that we forgot to mention.
If anybody wants us to talk about kickers, put it in the post. Send us the post because believe me, there's a lot of kickers I'm looking at, and these kickers are winning games, man. These kickers, I literally, Aubrey scored 22 against me last week. We have like multiple 18-point kickers last week. We had a guy come off, literally off the practice squad, didn't even meet his team, take over Young Hoku's spot and score 18 points in his first game right? So it's just craziness what kickers are doing. So, I wouldn't be mad at you if you guys told us, hey, yeah, let's talk about kickers.
Yeah. So that's our stream for waiver wire pickups. Stay tuned for our next one, which is going to be kind of the matchups of the week, where we kind of talk about the games that are upcoming, who the players are that could wreak havoc. So if you're going against them, just beware. Or
who were hexing, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, hexes, and I need
we
to
gotta start hexing some people, because
I really need to hex some people, because starting off 0-2 in the league, I'm back-to-back champion. I have not come out good. I had Burrow. I'm 0-2. I am putting up points. It's just the fact that I don't have a quarterback. So this waiver wire pickup for quarterback is gonna be huge for me. It's gonna either make or break me, and I don't like the choices I have. So the choices that I had to choose from are pretty terrible. So we'll see.
Hey, start making trades, guys. Like, this is the time. It's not too early. I'm already looking to trade, certain cats on
I
my
have
team.
like 8 running backs. So now I got to trade for a quarterback. So I'm desperate for wide receiver. I had DJ Moore, and DJ Moore stinks now, apparently. Yeah. So now I'm like desperate. My second wide receiver right now is Deebo Samuel. So I'm in dire straits at wide receiver and quarterback.
We'll talk.
Exactly. All right. Thank you for everybody, for whoever's going to watch this recording. Use the chat if you have questions, if you want to be on the panel, or if you want to be a part of our matchup conversation. If I missed anything, let me know.
Yeah, hit us out.
I think we're good.
And we'll see you next time. Good luck. Right. Hopefully nobody gets injured between now.
Hopefully I get my first win of the season. All right. Take care.
All right, guys.